Vulnerability fosters good emotions and mental health. Vulnerability also is a sign of courage. We become more resilient and brave when we embrace who we truly are and what we are feeling. The Vulnerable Scientist podcast is a space for scientists who are honest and authentic or are working towards it. Join the vulnerable space by either sending an audio using the link on the show notes talking about your highs and lows as a scientist, or by contacting Sarah Nyakeri, aka New Biochemist, to schedule a chat. The Vulnerable Scientist podcast benefits both the listener and the one sharing. You can now rate this podcast on Spotify or put a review on Apple Podcast or any other listening platform with a rating button. And to share your thoughts, feel free to send an audio message using the audio link, either using your name or anonymously, to be published on the following episodes of the Vulnerable Scientist podcasts. Are you wondering what I use to upload and store my website spaces? Host Pinnacle. I've been using it for over 2 years right now and it has never disappointed me. So host your website today using Host Pinnacle, cheap and affordable and reliable services. To start experiencing Host Pinnacle goodness, click on the link on the show notes and you will not regret your decision. Hi everyone, welcome to the Vulnerable Scientist podcast. This is your host Sarah Nyakeri, and today we have Justin with me, who will be our guest today for this particular episode. So Justin, how are you?
Well, first of all, thanks Sarah for inviting me to this podcast, and I'm doing well, thanks. How are you doing?
I am happy right now. I'm excited that we're going to have this conversation. And I'm excited to know what is there. I'm also a bit anxious about what I'm about to do today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. How are you for real?
I'm just doing well. It's a normal day for me. I think for you too, as a scientist, so we know pretty much how our life cycles are like. So we just another day to try and do what we do, basically. Yeah.
Okay, so introduce yourself to someone who doesn't know you.
Yeah, so my name is Justin Nyasinga, and I'm a biomedical scientist based here in Kenya, with a bias towards microbial genomics and molecular epidemiology of infectious diseases. So at the moment, I'm a tutorial fellow at the Technical University of Kenya, but I'm also a doctoral fellow at the Pan-African University of Science and Technology in the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology.
Okay, great. Tell us the story that got you to where you are right now, your career journey.
Yeah, so I think if I have to try and trace back to where my love for science came from, I think when I was in Form 2, if I haven't forgotten, I lost my brother. So, and I think I was fairly young. I was just a teenager, but I was told that he passed on from meningitis. So I didn't know what this kind of disease was. So I think when I studied about it more, I realized it's just an infectious disease, and I kind of just wanted to pursue education along those lines to try and understand the disease and other diseases, of course, they're infectious diseases for that matter. So, and try and see if I can contribute in small ways towards maybe solving problems around them. So that was actually high school. Then after high school, I went to college, did applied sciences, and I specialized in microbiology, but I had a bias towards clinical microbiology, and that's where I am today.
Oh, so that means from high school you already knew what you actually wanted to do?
I did actually.
You had chosen microbiology.
I did, yes.
Interesting. Where did you get the knowledge that microbiology exactly, like doing a course in sciences, would help in what you wanted? Like you've explained something to do with your brother, as in I'm trying to connect the two.
Yeah. So the cause of his death was meningitis. So I got curious. I was a high school student, so I got curious. What is this meningitis? So when I studied it further, I realized it's just a bacterial infection that once it complicates can cause death in the form of meningitis. So I learned maybe the field of study that tackles such kinds of diseases is microbiology, so specifically clinical microbiology. So I needed to take that direction. Initially, actually, I did want to do medicine itself, but I wasn't able to qualify for selection, at least by a point. So I said the next best option is to pursue microbiology with the intention of taking a clinical angle to it. And that's what eventually I did.
That's interesting that you knew such kind of stuff earlier on. So, so tell us about the highs and lows that you've experienced throughout your journey in science.
Yeah, so I think I've been in the field. I think I'm one of those people that can say among my classmates perhaps that I have tried to stay this course. So after graduation from undergrad, I still proceeded to do a couple of internships here in the country at the Kenyan Medical Research Institute, at the Centers for Disease Control, at the Wellcome Trust, and a few other institutions. The United States Army Medical Research Directorate here in Nairobi. So I think the challenges have been that, first of all, finding opportunities is not an easy thing right now, because I think if you look at the number of graduates that our universities are churning out every other year versus the opportunities that exist for these graduates in the industry, there's a huge disconnect. There's a huge disproportionate distribution of opportunities versus the people that are there to take them up. And that means that you really need to be patient and persistent in looking for these opportunities, which I think many people don't have, and you can't blame them because there are just not enough opportunities. So I think that lack of opportunity is definitely a low moment, not just for me, but I think for any graduate in the country. So you need to be super persistent, super patient, super focused on what you want to do, and then just wait for your turn, and then it's going to come. So that's a major challenge, the lack of opportunities. The other thing I could say is there is a lack of clarity perhaps among younger people in terms of the skill sets that are required in the industry versus what the university education system offers. So you get, like, there are some other soft skills that you really need that maybe the education system doesn't give us, like, interpersonal skills, communication, leadership, taking some initiative and stuff. So I think oftentimes when you get to the industry, you realize that these are really important skills, besides, of course, being able to know how to balance equations and set up experiments and write reports and stuff like that. Yeah.
So how did you navigate that? Looking for, you're coming from the university. How did you navigate that? Not getting opportunities. How do you deal with that? How did you deal with that?
I think one of the things that I can say that is easier now than it was before is the internet has really democratized information, and the opportunities for self-improvements have never been this high and have never been this accessible. So you get that there are so many things that you could do to improve yourself without having to be attached to an institution. So there's a lot of leadership courses that you take online. There's a lot of communication and personal development courses that you take. There are all these EDX, there are all Lily's, Simply Learn, and there are many other platforms for education, for self-improvement. The Young African Leaders Initiative, they offer some online courses on personal development, public management, leadership, entrepreneurship. So I think I took advantage of those, and I did a lot of those, even when I wasn't having any, active opportunities along my scientific preferences. I did still keep myself busy doing something that I think I would need in future, and I think it's come to play a huge role. Second thing is mentors. I think that's one of the most underrated things I think among college students, and I think I didn't pay as much attention as I should have, even though I did try. It is important to have a mentor, maybe right from the first day in college, who is constantly on you, keeping you in check, pushing you towards higher grounds, telling you to do this and do that, apply this, apply that, looking at your CV and critiquing it, and trying to tell you, make it better, make it more visible, more marketable for you to compete in the industry. So I think mentorship and opportunities for self-improvement are the two things that I could say were very critical to me and would be very critical to everybody, most definitely.
Are there any other laws that you experienced at that time, or even now?
Well, there are, and I think one of them that I can say is a law is I've had an opportunity to do some student exchanges in the West. I've been to other countries, Germany, Thailand, the US, and a few other countries. Is a disconnect continentally, between Africa and the rest of the world in terms of where science is. And what happens is if you have all these scores of people that go to the West and do really cutting-edge science, and they come back to Africa and they realize maybe our opportunities, the infrastructure that we have, the educational priority that we have, the industry priority that we have, do not match the skills that they've earned in the West. And that feeling that you are capable of doing more, but you happen to be in a place that you're not maybe utilizing the best of what you can give, is definitely a point of disappointment for most people. And you can understand why, because it's like you are capable of giving a 10, but you're in an environment where you can only give a 2 for no fault of your own. But I think you also have to thank them for sticking around and thinking actually Africa is the place they'd rather be and contribute in some small ways towards solving their continent's problems. And that's definitely a positive thing, even though it may be disappointing in some ways.
Okay. So that's what you experienced. You weren't able to get opportunities after getting out there and coming back to Kenya.
You can go out there, come back, and then you do not find enough opportunities that can, utilize the best of what you learned out there for the betterment of your environment, so for your country and the people that you serve. So that's one. And the other thing, I think the low moment, sometimes you can apply for those opportunities and you just don't get enough opportunities and you get regrets. You do not get the opportunity, so you apply again and again and again at a time. But maybe things don't come through for you. For most people, they just say, okay, fine, I'll just take what I get, because if I stick to finding opportunities in my area of specialization, I probably am going to waste a lot of my time, my valuable time, my youth, or something like that. So people tend to think, okay, fine, if I get opportunities in another industry, banking, for example, marketing, sales, or some other discipline that is fairly different from what they studied in college, they'll still take them, even though that's not what they'd have preferred. So I think for most people, that's a low moment. And for me too, for that matter.
Okay. All right. So can we go to the highs if you're done with the lows?
Yeah, we can. So for the lows, for the highs rather, I'm sorry about this, is I've had an opportunity to really interact with really brilliant people around the world. Like when I was growing up as a boy in the countryside, I never thought maybe I'd go to some other countries and meet new people and see new places and explore new cultures. So that I think has been a really gratifying moment for me, because I'm able to now, meet different people from different cultures, from different backgrounds, and then you're interacting and you're connecting at a scientific level. That in itself is very satisfying for me, that you can be able to engage in conversations with people at a higher intellectual level than they can lift you up, and you can network in the process. That has been definitely very satisfying.
Wait, how did you get these opportunities to go outside the country? Like what happened really?
Okay, yeah. So there are always opportunities coming up. Different international agencies are advertising for positions for student exchanges, scholarships, internship opportunities and stuff. So I think I always tried my best. I still do to latch onto those opportunities whenever they are advertised. So sometimes I get, sometimes I do not. But whenever I've gotten, I've taken, made the most of them. So yeah. So for my MSc, I got supported by the German Academic Exchange Services. That enabled me to just travel and do those student exchange programs and get to meet with other people. So basically, those are the avenues for which you can get such opportunities.
You did your MSc in?
In molecular biology and biotechnology.
And you looked for a sponsorship, or how did you get the opportunity?
Yeah, I had applied. I mean, I was in the middle of my postgraduate diploma education at the Kenyan University under the sponsorship of the Cambridge Wellcome Trust. So there are those opportunities that were advertised. I did apply, and I was lucky to get one for that program. So that's actually why I began it.
How did you get into the postgraduate program?
Yeah, I think it's a fairly competitive one. We were the first cohort at the time. So what the program was trying to address is a research gap that exists for young graduates. So they wanted people, fresh graduates who have interest in science and research, and they were supposed to be taken through a program on research methods. So it was a really entry-level kind of program that wanted to build capacity for research among young graduates. So people applied, and it was competitively, selected for those who were successful, and then we took part in the program for different disciplines, and that's how basically I got to the program.
Sorry, how? That's how?
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
That's how I got into the program.
Oh, okay.
Yes, that is how I got into the program. Yeah.
All right. So before that, what were you doing before the postgraduate?
Yeah, I think there was like 8 months to actually 1 year, if my memory serves me right, because the program began in 2015, but I graduated from my undergrad in 2013. So there was a 1 year gap that I was doing internships, and then the internships ended, and then I needed to do a few other things. I tried my hand in medical representative, jobs, basically marketing for scientific equipment in the field of medicine, and also for consumables. And I did that for 4 months. It wasn't taking me well, so I decided to just go back to science.
What happened?
Well, it's a tough job in the sense that you have targets to meet, and you need to do a lot of traveling, a lot of talking to people, a lot of writing and communication. It works, I think, over time, but you need to be patient. Maybe I lacked the patience, so I needed to go back to science. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So which internships were these that you did after school?
I did intern at the United States Medical Research Directorate in Africa. Yeah, that is USAMRU K in Nairobi.
You applied?
Yeah, sure.
How did you know about it? Like from school, how did you know about it?
I had always been on the lookout for opportunities for organizations that might offer opportunities for my discipline. So I was, searching for them actively, following their websites and their any other announcements, and also, of course, following the other job websites like the Brighter Monday and the others, just to see if there's anything that's posted there. And I think I came across one, but also the importance of mentors came here, because they are able to let you know, hey, there are actually internships being advertised for at Cambridge or at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Could you please check the website and try? Or there are these scholarships coming up. Could you please try and give them a shot and see if you get any? So I think they do come in handy there. But of course, there is that initiative that I have to take to be actively looking out for them.
So you did in your summary, then what?
Then I went to the CDC, and then I went to the Cambridge Wellcome Trust, back to Cambridge. Yeah, I did a couple.
Okay. Awesome. So how was the experience doing internships when you compare it with doing research that you did in your MSc and currently in your PhD?
It is extremely important because you get to understand the importance of working in groups. And
you got lost.
Like
you're working in groups and?
Yeah, working groups, networking, and understanding the importance of things like science communication, and collaborative writing, and things like this. And also networking for your discipline. So those are very important skills that come to pay off in a huge way later on in your career.
You've mentioned mentors. How do you get your mentors? How did you acquire your mentors?
Yeah, I think I like the term acquire because I think acquisition means it's an active process, and I think it is. So you have to be on the lookout for them. I do not think that mentors would come and say, "Hey, I want to be your mentor." So you have to be actively, looking for them, and you can begin from the lowest level. Your church leaders, or your high school teachers, or primary school teachers, or undergraduate lecturers, or people that you meet out here in the field, or maybe through conferences and workshops and other such events. So it's an opportunity that some of the opportunities that I think everybody needs. So it's a very active process, like you said. It's an acquisition process. So you have to be on the lookout for conferences and workshops. Reach out to your lecturers, talk to them, call them. Oftentimes, if you call them, if you ask for something from someone, they'll always actually oblige. Contrary to what most people think. Maybe other people think, actually, if I talk to this guy, he's probably not going to help me, so I don't want to try. But oftentimes, if you try, whenever you try, you find that actually they are more than easy to help, because most of them may have gotten to those positions by such means. So they're also in a situation where they are feeling like they need to give back, pay back that debt of gratitude for what they've received before.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was your other high?
Yeah, I think the other high is just fulfilling your scientific curiosities by trying to go deeper and deeper into certain problems that maybe you tackled superficially in a lecture hall or something like that. So the fact that you've been given an opportunity to go deeper and deeper into those things and widen your knowledge base, I think is very satisfying. Knowledge in itself is very satisfying. And being able to query certain things more deeply than you did before, by and of itself, is very satisfying for me. Yeah. I mean, knowledge is a reward for itself, Yeah.
Okay. Are there any other lows or highs that are not directly related to your career but influenced your career in one way or another?
Well, I really can't see any at the moment. I think those that I've just probably discussed with you are the ones that come to mind. And,
okay.
Maybe one high is the entrepreneurial aspect. And, the fact that you can be able to try and... I started a venture. It's called Impact Botanics Africa Limited. It's something I started with my friends, and we are trying to see how best can we utilize the skills that we learned over the years and try to solve a practical problem. And we are trying to do that by, trying to invest in high quality organic products for nutrition as well as skin and hair care. So it's just more like for our scientific curiosities to find expression in the form of products and services for other people. I think that's a really nice way of putting what we've learned into action, and also trying to satisfy our scientific curiosity and maybe try and solve a problem. So I think the entrepreneurial aspect is definitely another high that I would say I have experienced. The other one that has come to mind now that you've asked that question again is education itself. So, like I said, I'm a tutorial fellow in a university. So before then, I've been in the research setting. So mostly it's just tackling scientific problems to find solutions and answer certain questions. But I did make a switch to academia maybe 3-4 years ago. And I get now to meet students, younger students, undergraduate students who remind me of myself back in the days in undergrad. And the fact that I have an opportunity to help impart something to them and maybe help direct them in some way in their career, it's very satisfying also, I think, for me, because they're just young people like myself and they're the future of the continent, definitely like us. And being able to team up with them as a tutor or something like that at any other capacity is very satisfying. It's a high for me. I mean, the first time I talked to young students, first year students, I think it was very satisfying because I realized I was just one of them a few years back, and that's it's very satisfying in itself.
How did you become a tutorial fellow?
Well, I've always wanted to, combine education and research and leadership and entrepreneurship. Those 4 things are very, very passionate about. Yeah, so besides just scientific research, I've also wanted to be in a position where I can give back to the society in form of helping other people to, advance their careers in form of education, but also trying to see if there's a way we can apply what you've learned to, initiate entrepreneurial ventures in the country, in the continent, to solve practical problems for the continent. And of course, leadership itself, trying to provide direction for the society from policy, from interventions, and monitoring of those interventions. So those 4 things are very central to my career aspirations. So how I got it is because I was interested in it. So I applied to a couple of universities. Interestingly, I hadn't even started my MSc or anything, so I just tried to see prospectively. I was just prospecting and saying, okay, fine, let me try this. But one time I received an invitation for an interview out of the blues completely, and I showed up for the interview, and that's how I became a graduate teaching and research assistant, which is the entry-level job for any university job in the country. Then later on, of course, I got promoted to tutorial.
Oh, okay. That's awesome.
Yeah.
The entrepreneurial side of you, do you want to tell us more about it, and how is it like being a scientist who is practicing business, who's doing business?
Yeah, so I can't say that I'm one of the most successful entrepreneurs in the country right now, but I think it's the experience that you get starting a company from scratch is like any other, unlike any other. I mean, you have to find a name and then search for the name and realize, okay, the name is been taken. Then you have to find another name, and then you have your logo designed, your website designed. You have to register the company, the registrar of companies in the country, open a bank account, meet people, market. I think the experience that you get, solve problems, handle customer complaints, these are things that you can never get in your life, even if you work for Safaricom or even if you work for Apple, Google, or Yahoo, because the experience is very unique in itself, because you have to do things pretty much by yourself. And that alone is very character building, because it makes a rounded person, an all-rounded person out of you. Unlike if you have been hired by Safaricom as a manager in charge of, say, corporate communications, where there are already existing structures. But if you have to start something from scratch, where it's like oftentimes you're a one-man show, you're supposed to tackle everything, the experience is way better than what you'd have gotten if you were hired today by Facebook or Oracle or any other big company.
Okay, so I'm introducing a certain segment into this podcast, and I think you'll be the first person to ask this. And since I never told you about it, it will be nice to hear what you have to say.
Sure.
So, what are your hobbies?
Wow. That's a really interesting question, because most scientists would have, I think, a hard time trying to answer it. I think that there are a few years that I would say I never had any specific hobbies. I was more into science. Maybe immediately after after college. And I was more into finding opportunities and trying to find the next big thing to do to advance my career. But after that, I realized there is a need for us to have work-life harmony. I do not like to call it work-life balance, because balance means that you have to stop something, then you can replace with the other, then you can balance it. But I think if you talk about work-life harmony is when you have your work seamlessly integrating into the rest of your life. And that's something that I think I struggle a bit to find. But 2-3 years ago, I tried to find something to do. So I'm playing instruments. I like to play violin and, and I like making morning runs and maybe even runs whenever I have time. And I play volleyball and I support Arsenal Football Club. So I think that's pretty much what I do. Don't ask me about our performance.
I didn't think
I'm trusting the process.
I didn't know that someone would say that supporting a football team is a hobby. But even if you think about it, it is
a job, because there's a level of dedication that you need to support a football club. Like you need to show up for the matches, to watch the matches, follow the players, follow the results, and air your opinions on social media.
Don't worry about it. I'm also a personal fan.
Debate the performance with friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then if you think about it, that's a hobby.
It's a job in itself, but especially if you enjoy doing that, which I think I do.
All right. Yeah, don't worry. We are together. I'm also an Arsenal fan.
Oh, nice. The fan base is wide.
Yeah, 14 years strong.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for sharing that. I don't know. What that thing that you'd like to share that I haven't asked on this podcast?
I think it's just to encourage other scientists, young scientists in the country, those who are doing any applied sciences, engineering, all this, physical science. I think it's important that we kind of stick to those and really, really try to love what we do, or do what we love, and then maybe link them to the continent's priorities. Find a way in which the skill set that you're earning can find relevance in what the continent needs right now. That, I think, is what I would like to say.
Okay, thanks. I was trying to record that background.
Okay.
To help me edit it out.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, Justin, thanks for coming to this podcast, and thanks for sharing your journey. And if there's anything you'd like to mention and say your byes.
I just to say thanks for having me, and thanks for the opportunity that you gave for me to come and share my story. So I wish you well, and I hope to see you some other time. Okay.
Is there anything that... how do you feel about after recording this thing? I don't know.
But just okay. I think it's been a nice session. Yeah.
Okay, so I would like to... You'll have to send me a photo of you that you're relaxed and not, in a very official state. If there's one. So that I can use it as a thumbnail when sharing this podcast.
I see. Yeah. Okay. I'll try and find one. I don't have any. I think I'll try and find one.
Don't worry. You can get me anywhere, any picture, even you can even take a selfie.
Yeah.
If you can.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's see what we can do.
Okay. Bye.
Okay, bye. I wish you a nice morning and a good day ahead.
You too. Enjoy your day.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening. You can now support this production through www.patreon.com/thevulnerable scientist.